My name is Michael Phillips, and I am a time traveller. I was born in 2043. At the age of 18, I joined the army, had a few years there, and then I was recruited into the SES, the 21st SES Regiment to be exact. We carried out a number of missions in countries that I'm not allowed to name because I've signed the Official Secrets Act. And from there, I was contacted by a government department that called themselves Section 18. They told me they were a reconnaissance unit. However, it turned out to be something quite different. So I was then transferred to MOD Boston Down, and there they took me into a hangar, and in that hangar I saw this 8-foot sized spheroid object. I was then briefed on what this object actually was. Turns out it was a time machine. This time machine, it uses two micro singularities, one at the top and one at the bottom, to power the craft into it creates a gravimetric distortion, and distortion then tears a hole in time-space. What you'd consider as UFOs are actually time-space craft. They have the ability to travel in space and also time. Many UFOs that you do see in the skies are in fact time travellers. My time at Boston Down, I embarked on a number of missions. The first was to the year 2138, which was very interesting because it was not at all like I know the Earth to be now. In fact, it was rather polluted, and people were quite tribal, and it wasn't a pleasant place to be. Anyway, a little bit more about my time, 2075. All in all, it's not bad. There were a number of Earth changes which I do want to warn you about, which did change the Earth. Global warming continued. The major governments of the world did nothing to change that at all. So this is kind of a plea to change your ways. Another time traveller from, I think it was 2038, he came back. His name was Titor. He came back to 2000, I do believe. And he thankfully stopped a civil war in America, which was supposed to kick off in 2008. However, he got involved with the American intelligence authorities and the time travel program there. And it was decided that America needed a single unifying event to bring the country together and to avert a civil war. And that event was 9/11. Titor went back, I do believe it was May of 2001, just before 9/11 happened. So that's what happened there, and he did change the timeline so the civil war in 2008 didn't happen. More towards where we are now, where I am in 2018, which is odd because it's the first time I've travelled backwards in time. I've always travelled forwards. There is a limited nuclear exchange in 2019, March of 2019. That does involve North Korea. They attempt to launch a nuclear missile at Honolulu in Hawaii, and then the US responds with 2 cruise missile nuclear-laden missiles to Pyongyang and takes them out. So Kim Jong-un was no more at that point, and a lot of his government was taken out too. With the turmoil that ensued after that, World War III did start in 2020. It was a limited war though, thankfully. It only lasted 3 years. China and Russia were against the UK, America, and a few other countries. And all in all, it was a very fast but brutal war. Countless millions were killed. Nuclear weapons were used in a very limited capacity. Very limited, thankfully. Just battleground nuclear weapons. What else can I tell you? Oh yes, 2022, California, LA to be exact, is hit by what they term the big one. There was a very, very massive 10.2 magnitude earthquake there, which completely decimated the city. It actually cracked the fault line straight across California. As a result, California sits a good 10 feet lower than it used to. With rising sea levels, that did cause California and surrounding areas to be flooded and to no longer be habitable for people. People had to move out. What else can I tell you? Donald Trump, he clung to power for 2 terms, tried for 3. However, he was impeached and he was finally got rid of. Then you had Oprah Winfrey, believe it or not, try and run for the presidency. She was not successful. There was a man called Michael McIntosh who actually succeeded. I'm not sure if he's a name that's about at the moment, but that was in the mid to late 2020s. On the plus side, in the mid 2020s, we did land on Mars. We had the first man on Mars, which was good. It wasn't by NASA at all, it was by SpaceX and Elon Musk. They sent a number of missions up there in the early 2020s to prepare for the manned mission to Mars. By 2032, there was a lunar and Martian base. And towards when I was born in 2043, we were beginning to make commercial efforts to reach out to the solar system, to mine the asteroids and the moons of Jupiter for resources. So there are quite a lot of trillionaires in my time who own their own space stations, and they are very powerful people. You don't want to cross them. So a little bit more about the time travel project itself. As you can imagine, in my time, when I was born in 2043, up until I joined the program in 2075, there was a lot of money about. Trillions upon trillions upon trillions. I couldn't even guess how much money in the world or the solar system. So endeavours such as time travel were more and more possible. I have travelled numerous times in the future, and I'll tell you about one time now. I stepped into the craft, which is an 8-foot wide sphere. It uses 2 dual positive singularities, one at the top, one at the bottom, like I've said before, and it creates a distortion in the time-space via gravimetric forces. It is, how can I say, it utilises the singularities and forces the energy inwards for the time travel aspect. If you want to travel in space, you create a gravimetric wave outside of the sphere itself, and you can ride on that wave and get to a location in space very, very quickly. In terms of one of the times I went forward in time, let me just try and pick up an interesting one. Yes, I went to the 2432, and the world, thankfully, was a lot different again, but it was different in a positive aspect. The atmosphere and pollution, that was all cleaned up, thank God. It was very nice actually, it was very green, there was lots of flowers everywhere. Everyone appeared to speak English. However, I'm not sure if that was them speaking English or they had some kind of implant where they could understand English or speak in their language and you understood their language or what. Buildings were exceptionally tall. They were just huge glass towers. There were numerous cars which were flying and travelling in what I assume were highways in the sky. People were friendly, they were open, they weren't afraid to come up to you and say, "Hi, who are you, where are you from?" I think they were quite used to having time travellers, because when I said I was from 2075, they didn't appear to be all that shocked. I certainly would have been shocked at the time if I would have known time travel was about. What can I say about time travel itself? Time travel itself. Well, back in, I think it was 1947, the US government captured a time-space craft. And this craft, it took them a few years to figure out what it couldn't and can actually do. They tried to retrofit some super magnets onto a ship one time, I do believe. And unfortunately that did not go well. It did not travel in time. It travelled in space. It travelled approximately 30 or 40 kilometres down the coast. And when they did find this ship, this US Navy frigate, all the crew members were fused into the ship, and it wasn't a nice sight, so they hadn't quite perfected it back then. Officially, time travel was invented and perfected in 1975. There were a number of operatives who went backwards in time, mainly because they wished to try and change various historical events, such as World War II. However, they were not successful whatsoever. In fact, a lot of their efforts were making the changes and making what happened a lot worse. So if you've got any questions about what I've seen in the future, I think that you'd be more interested in that. I'd be more than happy to do another video and say, right, this is what's happened. Thank you.